What do you give a singer for Christmas? Hi, I am Shalala, and I am here with a very special guest who's going to help me to come up with some Christmas presents for singers. Jeff Rolka. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Shalala. How are you?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. There's a few items that come in handy for just about any vocalist, and many of them are rather affordable, though some of them, of course, are not. We can always spend as much as we want, but for stocking stuffers and things like that, there's a few that are really, really ready, easily to hand. If I may, one of the things that I have always to hand in the studio is a nice TheraBand. Worth noting, these are non-latex TheraBands. So if you have allergies, you're all good. It's still fine. And the thing that's cool about these is that you can use them for a variety of things when you're talking about singing. What I mostly use them for is wrapping them around my chest so that as I'm trying to gauge the level of expansion and contraction while I'm singing or practicing, the TheraBand gives me some nice feedback because it'll stretch and I'll feel my rib cage pressing into it. And you can get those just about any place online. They're very inexpensive and make nice little stocking stuffers, I think.
That is actually really sophisticated because so far I've been using a scarf.
Still useful, very useful in a pinch. Yeah. Is there anything that you have always in your studio that's easily to hand there, Shalala, that you like?
So usually, like, especially right now, and like I feel it, I'm sniveling and everything. So I like to inhale with something that just moistens everything. And usually I use this one, and I am very aware that it looks like a tiny bong. It's not. It's like it's a pipe. It's a glass pipe. You can put some thyme essential oil in here and then just basically smoke it. And you don't have the whole sweaty towel over your head effect. You can just use this and it's very clean. It's quite affordable and I think it makes a great gift.
In terms of gifts, I mean, well, of course, that's what this is all about, are gifts, of course. But one thing that I would not be without is my trusty. Now, and I am, of course, preferenced to purple, so I like the purple, and it's a little bit beat up at this point. But I would not be without my clean canteen. And I think you can find them on sale for around $20 or so. And this is not like a fancy, it's not double wall or anything. It's just for bog standard, good old room temperature water. But these I would not be without. I love my clean canteen, obviously, with all the dings. It's been around, shall we say, and dropped more than enough times. Very durable, even if the aesthetics suffer somewhat from my mistreatment of it.
I'm right there with you. I mean, this is not clean canteen, but yeah, mine is pretty beat up as well. And yeah, this is so, if somebody is singing, you're absolutely right. This is like the perfect companion. I went through my bookshelves, and the one book that I really love and would recommend for singers it's called Blue Melody, and it is Tim Buckley, so Jeff's father, Jeff Buckley's father. Tim Buckley Remembered by Lee Underwood, and I really love this book, first of all, because I love Tim Buckley's music, and it goes through every album. And what I really like to do is, like more or less once a year, I reread this book and listen to the album according to the chapter that I read. And yeah, it gives you such a deep understanding for the music, and it's kind of like time traveling.
For me, it breaks down, like I certainly have like books that I take inspiration from, one of which is The Art of Possibility by Rosamund Zander, and also The Dip by Seth Godin, which are not so much, I mean, the Art of Possibility uses music as a context to talk about perseverance and tenacity in one's pursuit of art. And The Dip takes, I think, a little bit more pragmatic look at that. Not necessarily, however, through the lens of music, but both of them are talking about continuing to work on what you're doing. Again, in this case, we're talking about music, but it could be just about anything. Mm-hmm. but to continue to work on it and to try to notice those times when the work feels like it is more, that you are putting more into it than what you are receiving out of it. And to try to understand if that's a phase or if there is something that needs to be adjusted in how you are approaching it.
Yeah.
And I've found both of those books to be hugely inspirational. From a more practical singing side of things,
I was hoping you would say something like that.
it's never far off of my list of things to do. Of course, like on the channel and in the comments and stuff, I'm always talking about Richard Miller, who was an opera singer and a vocal pedagogue from Northwestern University, who's passed away some years ago. And he has a number of books that are available. One, if I'm not mistaken, for each of the major Fox, so like sopranos, but within that you get mezzos as well. I think the contralto voice is in that book too.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got like training tenor voices is like still one of the primary works for that. And you've got like securing baritone, and bass voices. But the thing about it is that most of those are out of print. And so they can be ridiculously expensive or impossible to find. But The Structure of Singing is the book that I would actually recommend because it's really quite inexpensive. You can find copies for very little money. Usually they're used, so they might be a little bit marked up, but I mean, what's a little highlighter, really? So they're very inexpensive, and they not only cover a lot of the specifics around appoggio and some of the things around like the secondo passaggio, like registration events, getting through the different breaks or transition points in one's voice. But it also talks a lot about the integration of those techniques into one's artistic pursuits, which is a really nice balance because most of the other books are pretty hardcore, like technical stuff with oscilloscope readings and readings from Helmholtz generators that have been, scoped down vocalist throats and things like that. Yeah. Not light reading, Yeah. Though not to say that one shouldn't indulge in that from time to time, but like The Structure of Singing, I think is a really good place to start. I wonder still about like what else one might use like in their home studio or just around in the thing. Is there anything in particular that you find useful in your day-to-day work?
I'm not the most technical person in the world. I like things that just work, that you plug in and that just work. And I found an interface that does exactly just that. It's plug and play, and that would be the Focusrite, the Scarlett. There are various generations out there. I have the 2i2, and I just love it because it is really foolproof. Because I can use it. Attached to that is the Rode NT1, the microphone.
I do not actually own an NT1,
but okay.
Yeah, but I've used them in just about every studio, particularly around here. They are ubiquitous. And the thing about the NT1 or the NT1A is just that they actually might be the same microphone. Is the NT1 and the NT1A the same mic?
You are asking the non-technical person in this conversation.
It might be worth checking out before you make your purchase.
Yeah.
If you're buying this for someone. Microphones, it's not about having a great microphone. It's about having the right microphone for the right color that you want to capture. And the NT1s, the NT1As, Rode microphones, time and again, still stay in the studios long after the individual has garnered like a lot of other microphones and things like that. I have a pair of the NT5s, the matched stereo pairs that I still use all the time, even though I use some other different microphones. I mean, I have a pair of KM184s by Neumann that I like quite a lot. Those came on to replace the NT5s, but the NT5s still get used all the time. They're a very, very solid choice in microphone for sure. And as for like, interfaces, I think the Scarlett's great. I think that's great. And quite frankly, the easier, the better, because anything that makes it easy for us to get into making the music is better than struggling for hours with different drivers and whatever else you have to, whatever hoops you have to jump through in order to make it work. That's just a barrier towards making music, which you just want to get beyond. Honestly, further to that, and I would even suggest, and this is a little bit more expensive. So, I think these items are a little bit more expensive. This is like, this is like the main featured item under the tree, perhaps more than a stocking stuffer. Although most microphones will fit in a stocking quite comfortably. The USB Blue Yeti Blue microphone is another company that makes microphones that, time and again, the price point, and again, they're not inexpensive microphones, but the usefulness and the usability and the fidelity of the microphone, in my opinion, far exceeds the price that they come in at. And they even have USB versions of their microphones, some of them anyways. So that even removes the interface as a barrier. So with like the USB Blue Yeti, especially on Apple systems, like if you're using a Mac computer with GarageBand or Logic, Yeti will have a USB cable that you can plug into it, plug it into the computer, and it will basically just show up in GarageBand or Logic, and you are off to the races making music and cutting your vocal.
Nice.
Which I think you mentioned Smule earlier. That might be a nice way to be able to get a higher fidelity recording on Smule, because most of these devices will have adapters for iPhones or iPads. So you'll have to make sure you get the right adapter. But anything that sets you apart from everybody else that's out there doing the Smule recordings means that you'll get that many more. Do you have views on Smule as well?
Yeah, you get views, and people can join you on a duet. I have to admit, I'm kind of like I abandoned it a little bit, not really by choice. They changed the whole using effects on your voice and everything. It feels like I have to do a workshop before I'm able to to put the next recording on Smule. So I have been absent a little bit, but that's like on my list for the next year to get back to Smule. Yeah, you have followers on Smule and people can interact with your recording. And it's a really great way. And I really wish that they did not made those changes, but they did. But that would be the way to use an adapter and then to use the Blue Yeti that you mentioned.
Yep. And I think the Yeti is a very modest price point to come in at. You can always spend more if you want.
On the topic of spending, there was something that I wanted to ask you, because I really like to get used stuff, or like Amazon warehouse deals, refurbished, whatever you want to call it. I'm really very much into that. Also used books. I think like that was kind of like what I was looking for when we were talking about your water bottle. It has soul. It's like it's been through a lot, and it kind of like it has its own soul now.
That is very kind of you.
When I buy something for myself, I always look for pre-used, pre-owned, whatever you want to call it. But when it comes to giving it away as a gift, I'm always like, is it okay to do that, or should I go for the original packaging, warranty stuff? What's your opinion on that?
I think you have to be a little careful with some things, but in general, I think it's perfectly fine. And particularly when you are looking at music retailers, like in Germany, if you were ordering something from Thomann, for example, or here in Thomann is amazing. Like, quite frankly, it's ridiculous, but I order things from Thomann here in California.
Oh, wow.
It is really that good. But here in the US, we're seeing a sort of renaissance, in my opinion, in the US for music retailers. They are just like, I think they're just tiny little shops that are popping up. They have a little bit of warehouse space and a web page. But the thing is that many of them will offer you open box deals or B stock deals, customer return deals. And you can save a little bit of money. You still get a warranty. Yeah. It might, oftentimes they say that it has a blemish. I have yet to find anything with a blemish. I overwhelmingly, when I'm purchasing things, order B stock or returns and stuff like that, just because it's just a good savings and you still get the warranties. I don't think one should have any qualms whatsoever about doing it that way instead of, insisting on getting something that's never been opened before.
Mm.
And furthermore, like, quite frankly, if you never told the person, they would probably never know, because it's going to come with all of its packaging and boxes and stuff like that. Let's circle back around for just a moment here to stocking stuffer concepts.
Yeah.
Although I suspect that nowadays, to a certain extent, the gift card has become like the inbox stuffer. It's not like going to end up in a stocking. It's going to end up in your inbox. I run the gambit, shall we say, from learning things by ear, just listening to it, and then learning to play it. Sometimes I like to actually have, and if I had it my way, I would have the physical sheet music in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes I'll just use apps like musicnotes.com. Again, no affiliates here, no associations, no sponsorships. And that means that, it can be, it's $5 here, it's $5 there to get a sheet, a sheet music, a chart off of musicnotes.com. I buy it, it pops up in their Music Notes app on my iPad, and I'm immediately, off to the races doing what I want to do with it. And those, like, gift cards could be really, really nice for, whatever amount you wish to give to the person, really. And for that matter too, if all of this microphone stuff or interface stuff was just more than you wanted to deal with, gift cards to music retailers like Tom, I have to assume Thomann you can get gift cards for Thomann.
I'm pretty sure, yes.
Yeah, I know. I checked a couple here in the US. Sweetwater is a very, very popular retailer here.
They are also really good if you're looking for a last minute present.
That's actually perfect. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. When you're doing your Christmas shopping on December 24th at 11:59 p.m.
Yeah.
I have no experience with that.
Musicnotes.com was what you said for sheet music.
That's the one that I use, but there are like a variety of others out there that one might choose from. That's just the one that I happen to use.
Yeah.
Speaking of gift cards, do you fall into the category of vocal coaches who do gift cards, or don't you?
Actually, that's a great point. You're absolutely right. Like, you can contact me and you could buy a lesson or a couple lessons for someone that you want to buy lessons for, or whatever. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I would think that most vocal coaches would at least be able to sort it out for you, take a prepayment on a lesson or two, and make note of the person. And it doesn't take much time to like draft up a little like certificate and send it over that you can print.
Yeah. I think you have to be careful though. I mean, if somebody is an experienced singer and knows of the value of lessons, then I think that is a perfect gift. But if you give it to somebody who thinks they are the best singer and they don't need it, it might be a little bit tricky.
That's an extremely good point. And to that end, individual differences and instructors too. Not all vocal coaches coach all styles. Mm-hmm. So, it's a safe bet if your vocalist friend is always watching Freya's channel, for example, then that might be a good time to contact Freya, and that would probably work out okay. If they're always watching Freya's channel, but you contact me, that would probably still work out okay, because Freya and I have a lot in common in our teaching practices. But you want to just be conscientious about who the vocal coach is and who the person's really watching.
So speaking of Freya actually, I just read her book, Master Your Voice. So if you have a vocalist friend who watches her channel, then that book would actually be a good gift as well. I'm always a little bit weary, I think is the word, with books about singing and vocal technique, because I like to read sitting on a bus, and it's not so good for the flow if there are vocal exercises in there. and you're on a bus and there are people around, and she says like, okay, you could try this and you can try that. But it's not like, okay, now I'm going to talk and then you're going to do an exercise. It's like you can read it. Like it's really beautiful to read. And if you like her voice, the way she talks, then the book is really perfect because you can literally hear that this is 100% Freya Casey. In my capacity as somebody who talks about careers a lot, I really like that she shares all her insight of being a singer and how to make money and how to make a living. And I really appreciate that book in that capacity a lot.
Fantastic. Yeah. I have to admit, I haven't seen Freya's book yet, but in working, I recently had the pleasure of working with Freya on a collaboration. It was just awesome. She's delightful to work with. So, and I know you just did a video on her teaching not long ago, correct?
Yeah, she was the third vocal coach I featured in Vocal Coaches on YouTube. Yes. So you were the second, she was the third. Yeah. Okay, so to recap, we had a couple of items that are really useful for singing or leading the singer's life or the vocalist life, like the TheraBand, my glass inhaler, and the clean canteen, the water bottle.
Books, just to kind of round things out here in the book singing, we start off with the Tim Buckley, Jeff's dad. We talked a little bit about The Art of Possibility and The Dip by Seth Godin, although The Art of Possibility is by Rosamund Zander. It's a very old book, by the way. And also The Structure of Singing by Richard Miller, which would be my kind of gateway book into the technique and ethos that Richard Miller talks about in his vocal teachings.
To tell you the truth, I actually wanted to do this video so that to push people that want to give me something into the right direction. That book, if anybody's listening right now, that book would be like the one thing that I really want from this list.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, we talked a little bit about the home studio and recording things that you can use for recording, like the Focusrite Scarlett interface and the Rode NT1 microphone.
We were also talking about the Blue Yeti.
Yeah, of course.
As a USB mic, so we could avoid the interface if you weren't ready to get into the interface just yet.
Yeah.
And I think from a stocking stuffer standpoint, or as I mentioned before, an inbox stuffer, gift cards, or to online retailers. And I think we agree on this. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but if you can buy B stock used or otherwise, like pre-opened, pre-whatever stuff, if you're buying from a reputable retailer, I would say that that's a great way to save some money, save some potential stuff out in the world, and still get the things that you need.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. Yeah. And one small thing, I'm not sure whether we mentioned it or not, if you are into that whole home recording thing, SD cards. One cannot have too many SD cards, and they fit into a stocking perfectly or in an envelope.
They fill up really fast. So you can always, and actually too, a lot of home recording systems like Tascam standalone recorders use SD cards for recording. So they're just more and more useful. Great. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a great point.
Jeff, thank you so much. This was fun and very, very helpful. I have a feeling that we contributed to a lot of vocalists having a really happy Christmas.
I certainly hope so. You're very welcome. It was a pleasure to have a chat with you, Shalala. It was really great.
Thank you very much. Likewise, we should do this again.
I would love to. See you soon.